course on human-computer interaction. This is week number 6. And I hope you're enjoying the course. I hope you're also trying the topics that we are covering in this course, which is I hope you're getting your hands dirty by building prototypes, by building, by doing user studies, by talking to users, collecting what the user needs are, and doing all of the topics that we are discussing in this class. Core design, core idea of design patterns. So what I wanted to cover in this week is this big idea called design patterns. You need design patterns is because it helps actually designers to use the patterns that people have actually tried and tested. Using one of these design patterns just helps users to also understand your design very well. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to walk you through some of the design patterns. I'm going to actually use content from meaning Jason's course where I will walk you through different design patterns. There's a URL at the end of the slide, at the bottom of the slide, in the slide, which is where most of these design patterns are discussed. So if you're interested in looking at more of these design patterns, feel free to go look at these this PDF. So look at this. So this is one of the web services that is like eBay, that is like Amazon, that is like Flipkart, right, which is selling. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use these slides to tell you these design patterns. But I'm going to use this website only as an indicative way of showing these design patterns. These slides will help you to understand the design patterns, but we'll at the end of when I'm done with the design patterns slide, we'll also go look at some of the real world services that are available there, how these patterns are actually applied in these services. But I'm for so to say instructional purposes, I'm going to use this website called half.com where I'm going to walk you through the different design patterns. I'm sure the site looks very familiar because this is like an e-commerce website where you're going to go buy CDs, you're going to buy books, you're going to buy movies, all of that. So the question that we want to keep asking while looking for these design patterns is, what site is this, right? This is a website which is e-commerce where people are going to buy. People are going to probably upload information about the product that they have and details about the product. So one of the design pattern is called site branding, where logo of the organization of the service is actually prominently kept on the website. This website is, as I said, this website is all about e-commerce where people are going to upload, the sellers are going to upload the information about the products, the buyers are going to look about the products and make a decision on buying the product. So the first design pattern is site branding. As you can see, the web service actually has the logo on both sides of the left and the right top as the logo. And these design patterns, you have to keep in mind that I'm covering some of these design patterns, which probably looks very trivial at this point in time for you because you're so much used into these kind of design patterns. But these all have some meaning, some background, why they have evolved in the way it is today. And I'm sure the solutions that you're using will also have a lot of patterns, meaning I'm sure just if you just think for a few seconds, the Ubers and Olas that you use, they have very similar interfaces, very similar patterns. And if you look at, let's take Facebook and Twitter, there are some similarities. I think when we started this course, we did see the similarities and the differences in the services, but we were not really looking at from the design pattern point of view, but we were just looking at how the interfaces were kept. So here it is called site branding. And if you look at the other components of the website, tab, row content, categories on the left. So these are all highlighting the different parts of the website. And again, I'm telling you, many of the web services that you may be using looks very similar to this. Flipkart looks like this. Amazon looks like this. prices in the content area. So upfront value proposition is the next design pattern, which is where the service is actually providing information about whatever they're doing, whatever their basic or the nucleus of their business is this put in front here, right? Upfront value proposition, which is the smartest place to buy and sell books, CDs, computers, electronics, and they've given you the value, the categories, and the information about different parts of the website. Of personal e-commerce also, right? Because here it is also personalized depending on the clicks, depending on the links that you have seen, depending on the products you've seen before, they are going to actually change and provide different interfaces or different options, different products for you to actually look at. So this slide shows you the two of the design patterns, which is upfront value proposition and personal e-commerce. Let's look at more of these design patterns. So if you look at this slide, it is giving you the information about welcome for new visitors message, tab for search on the top, categories of the products, prices, and some of these are the design patterns are basically called as obvious links. So this is welcoming the new users, and this is the tab or row for search on the top, and you also see the categories of books, textbooks, and fiction, categories of the products, and then there is also price, right? Examples of these are examples of obvious links, which is that it's a design pattern which we need, right? Price we need, categories we need, all of that. So here is another super important design pattern, so to say. This is called as above the fold, meaning I'm sure if you think about this design pattern, it is very critical, is because you want to put all the information that is available, that is needed for the user to know before one scroll in the web page, before one scroll in the app that they're using, right? Because otherwise it's completely a waste of time, because the user is going to continuously keep doing this, and he or she is not going to get the information that they want, or they're going to get distracted. So you will actually see some design patterns which are around this impulse behavior of users, which can also distract the user from what they were intending to do while coming to the web service. So the design pattern is above the fold, where information that is kept within one screen has to capture all important information that the user is looking for. Now it's actually going to a different website. So if you look at it now, this is the home page, so to say. Now we look at a page where I've done some search and I'm actually into that page, looking at buying things and looking at more details about the seller rating and everything. So here it is actually showing you product, and logo is still on the top left corner, reinforcing the brand, same font layout, everything is looking very similar to the page number one, right? So the idea here is that you want to keep all of the same, so the users are not getting lost in finding out where they are. Again, for many of us who are more used to using the internet and the apps, we may think that this is a very trivial design pattern, but I think you want to make sure that you follow it when you're designing your own product, your own solution. So look at these are now some of the other important design patterns. Is that there is the pattern called as breadcrumbs, which is it is actually showing you which part of the website you are now, right? You're in the home. From home, you moved on to the page called music, and that's where you are. It is important for the user to know where they are on the website. And also the tab row on the top is actually, the music is highlighted because that's where you are. So let's take if you are on books or if you are on electronics, accordingly the tab would have actually been highlighted in a different color. Album cover, product highlights, and CD cover, right? So you're looking for the product visor, but they have also provided you the cover of the visor. They have also provided you the details of the product and the cost and everything that is available with the cover there. This just helps you to get more information about the product that you're looking for. And of course, as I started believing that the internet users now and people like you and me live on two things. One is notification, the other one is rating. Right? So ratings are the primary way by which we make a lot of decisions, right? You want to go to, you want to go eat somewhere. You're looking for actually Zomato, Yelp, where the ratings are the ones that you use primarily to decide whether you want to go eat there, right? Similarly, whether I want to buy the book from this person, this seller, so I'm going to use this rating. Rating information is available for me here, and of course, above the fold is the information that you want to keep. It's reiterated here. Here is another interesting pattern that people have used. Services actually generally use it even now. Is this whole idea called impulse buy. You are on the website to buy something, a product or to a book, and while you're going through the book and while you're actually in the process of checking out the book, they would actually also show you recommendations of the books that either the same authors have written or something relevant to this particular topic to you for you to buy. And I'm sure if I ask you a question of how many of you have done the impulse buy, many of us do that because it just helps. Because if you look at Amazon, and I'm sure Flipkart also does the same thing, where you can easily see that the book that you buy, they would actually put it saying that people have bought similar books, people have bought this book when they have bought the book A that you want to buy, and they would also say that if you buy these two together, the total cost is X, but we are giving it to you X minus 20%. Right? So those are the kind of the information that they are able to pull out because of data analytics, because of they know how users behave in their services. Using that, they are making interface design better interface design, and they're presenting information to you through interface where you will actually be made, or you'll actually be pulled, or you'll actually be enticed to buy the product that they're recommending to you. So another question that you will have is, now that the seller rating I've seen, is the product any good? Is the book that I'm buying anything that I want to buy? So there again, there are reviews about the books. Again, there are so much of spams and so much of non-relevant information that is available there about these products on these websites. But you'll have to find out the reviews. You'll have to find out what the product is all about, and then only you want to buy. So you're looking for reviews. So recommendation from the community. Now let's move to the next stage of the purchase. So now we are on this page called shopping cart, or it is giving you information what is available in my shopping cart. So here again, you will clearly see that on the left hand side, it is giving you some other product information, and in the main part of the website, they're giving you what the product that you have actually checked out. Again, the logos are kept, colors and fonts are same, site branding is continued, but there are actually some very interesting pattern that they follow here, which is called shopping cart. And you will also see that this proceed to checkout is highlighted, and they want your attention there because that's exactly what they would like you to do, which is check out the product and actually pay for the product. Shopping cart and proceed to checkout reinforce that this is the right page, and shopping cart is the design pattern. And cross-selling, of course. Using the impulse buying, there's also this idea called cross-selling and upscaling, which is where they're going to actually give you information about products that are connected to the product that you want to buy, and get you actually buy the products. So the next thing that you actually look at in these websites are how much will it cost? Can I remove it from my cart? Can I find another one? Move to wish list. All of this you will actually see that in the services that you're using now, like Amazon and Flipkart, also actually deploy these. We're still in the shopping cart, so I think the other design pattern that this particular page uses is called high visibility action button, which I said before. Proceed to checkout, high visible. They want you to get to the checkout. And visually distinct, 3D, looks clickable, repeated above and below to the fold, so that you actually don't miss it. So here is another page where this is the page where you are signing up or creating your account. This page says that register now, and it also provides you username and password, and it is giving you there are some design patterns here too. What if I forgot my password? Sign in on new account is the design pattern here. So now we are on the page of where you want to actually fill the shipping address and billing details. So that's the design pattern on sign in on new account, which helps you to actually create new account or sign into the existing account. So with that, what we have seen is there are some design patterns. There are many more, meaning I think this is not a comprehensive list of all the design patterns that are available out there, but I wanted to only highlight some of the design patterns, which are some things that you want to keep in mind. And the advantages of the design patterns is that you can quickly prototype, because you actually have these design patterns which you can implement it quickly. And they are readily available designs. Again, it's connected to the quickly prototyping. They're easily usable, so to say. And users are tuned into the design, because users know that they are looking at the similar kind of designs in products after products, so they can actually get the user interface very quickly. The learning curve for using the design, using the product that you're building, is actually very low, because you're making use of design patterns that users are already aware of. For some of the disadvantages, the disadvantage is that it just curtails creativity of the designer, right? So because if you're using a design pattern that people have been using for the products otherwise, then you can't really create an excitement for the users to use it. And the same point as actually users' learning curve is low, we can actually argue that it is also getting boring to some extent. The users are getting bored because they're seeing the same kind of patterns again and again in all the products that they're using. So those are the disadvantages that I see in using the design patterns. So what we'll do now is we'll actually take a quick look at some of these services. What I'm going to request you to do is I'm going to request you to please look at the services that you're otherwise using for reviewing the design patterns that we just now saw. But we'll go through some of them quickly as part of this lecture itself. Now what we'll look at is we'll take some of the services that I had in my slides and see how they have actually applied some of the design patterns. Again, as I said, these design patterns are not comprehensive that we have seen in the slides, but these gives you an indication of what are the design patterns that exist out there. And the pointer in the slide will give you a comprehensive list of all the design patterns that are available. So now let's look at this Amazon site, right? So you remember we saw the thing called as site branding, where they're going to put the logo wherever possible, which is evident. There is one here. And if you look at the design, they also have something called as necessary information, or information that you need when you're actually looking at these services. For example, it has the cost here, it has the product picture here, and this also has advertisement here, which is actually talking about a popular product, which could be actually leading into impulse buying. If you remember, we looked at something called as shopping cart. There is a search bar. All of these design actually are coming from the patterns that we saw before, right? And above the fold. So they're giving you the most interesting or most connected products that you would be buying for you above the fold, right? This is also, to some extent, it could also be personalized from the searches, from the things that you bought before on the website Amazon.com. Right, so that gives you, so for example, let's go into a product. So you will actually see into a product. Now, if you remember, we also saw the design patterns for giving you the information about the products itself, and the description of the product, the cost, the rating. If you remember, one of the other thing was rating. And we would also have reviews. So if you remember, we talked about reviews also as a design pattern, because one of the things that you're looking for is to see how the product is. This is about the product, and there's also reviews about the products that people have written with the star rating that they have given. Right, so that's the kind of details that you are looking for. So all of this again is above the fold is clearly here. It is giving you the product details, it's giving you add to the cart, it's giving you all the details like this is a gift, what is the cost, and other details about actually checking the product out. Right. So that will give you a sense of what the how design patterns that we have seen only as applied in Amazon.com. See, Amazon.com is a very popular company, and they're actually following some of these design patterns, which probably helps them in making a good company. And if you remember, we also saw this sign in or create an account where you're asked to give your email address or then asked for password and information like that. I hope that gives you a sense about what are the design patterns that we saw in the slides and how it is getting implemented in the website, web service, Amazon.com. Let's go to another product. Another product, this is again giving you details about the products, about the product itself. Now details about reviews, total number of reviews, and see, if you remember, one of the points that I discussed was this impulse buying or recommendations that they would do is a frequently bought together, this plus this plus this. Yeah, total price is $292 compared to if you were to buy these items separately. Add to cart, delivered to India. And again, these may be the product, sponsored products related to this item. Customers who bought this item also bought. So all of this is recommendation. They're using your patterns that you've used the website to predict these kind of products and actually present it to you. Right, so that's probably giving you a sense of Amazon.com. Now let's look at another service which is popular in India, Flipkart. So given that we have already seen Amazon slightly slowly, I'll actually make the rest of the services slightly quickly. Site branding, personalized content, categories, search bar. Let's go to one of the categories, men. And it is actually providing me cost of details of the products. Right, so if I click on one of them, it's giving me details about that particular product. Now that we have all of these social networks, there's also share, so you can see share to send it to your friends and post it. And if you see there is shopping cart, there's login and sign up, all of the shopping cart, create a new account, and if you remember, ratings, questions about the products and other products, right? So here similar products, which is probably for impulse buying, and again this is also recommendation. So that's the kind of way that Flipkart has implemented the design patterns. And imagine the way that these web services would have been, like for example 5 years before. So later in the class we'll actually look at some services like Google and Dell and Microsoft, how these websites were 15-20 years before. But just think about it, right? When these patterns were not very common, the companies may have had a different website, a different way of actually presenting the information. Later we could actually look at some of the web services that was available 15-20 years before and see whether we can actually see any differences in the way that the information is presented now versus 10-15 years before. Now let's see another service called Snapdeal. Again, if you look at this is site branding, obvious information like the categories that you want to see, the cost, and shopping cart, recommendations. Right, let's get into a product and product details, add to cart, which is made in a different color, buy now, Again, if you remember, the focus on getting your attention to some of these actions on the website is essential in the design pattern. The ratings and reviews. So these are kind of above the fold. Again, everything is presented here, right? So the important ones that we have seen is above the fold, recommendation, obvious links, create an account, and impulse buying, recommendations. So therefore, you can clearly see all of these services are actually applying these design patterns, and all of these particularly are of the same category, which is Amazon, Flipkart, Snapdeal. All of them are the same category, and therefore you can clearly see how they've implemented the same thing that we saw in the slides as half.com. So if you're building any of the services like this, I would highly recommend you to make use of these design patterns. Now let's look at slightly different categories of services and see what kind of design patterns that they have applied from the ones that we have seen. So you can clearly see that they have the logo, site branding, even though this is presented as just as an F, it is the site branding. And in this also, if you see, there is above the fold that is being used, right? So in terms of on the left, it is showing me all the shortcuts and the categories of topics that I can look for, or the categories that I would be looking for, which is events, groups, pages, everything. And on the right, if you see, they're showing me stories, which is something that I may be interested in. Therefore, it could be like a recommendation. And definitely trending is them recommending that these are the news that I may be interested in reading. Right? So trending, stories, shortcuts, and explore. These are the design patterns that they're using from the ones that we saw, which could, here it is not impulse buying, but it's actually obvious links, right? Trending, you want to really know what are the topics that are trending now. So that probably gives you a sense of what are the design, how even if organization like Facebook is actually developing or deploying the design patterns that we saw. So now let's look at Twitter, right? So Twitter also has different sets of design patterns. One is, of course, they have their, they don't have their logo on the left or the right, but they have the site branding at the middle of the web page. But they have actually other design patterns like above the fold, which is they're showing you the trends, they're showing you who to follow, all of this just above the fold. And so you are sure of actually getting these content when you come to this website, not necessarily when you scroll down and then only you get this information. So that's how they are applying the design pattern, and of course their design patterns are going to be slightly different because the services that they provide, that the features that the website like Twitter has is not the same as the one that we saw, for example, Amazon or Flipkart or Snapdeal. So this will help you to understand how different types of organizations are actually, services are actually deploying their design patterns. Now let's look at actually another type of services. So now I'll go to news media services. Let's look at Times of India, right? Times of India. Here they have all the categories, so obvious links, so to say, I guess, yeah, because these are the links that you may be interested in going from the home page. And above the fold is also here because they're showing you the most critical information that they think is necessary for now. They're showing you the Assembly Elections 2018 results, which is what they probably think that users who are landing on this page would be interested in. Right, so these are obvious links for any articles that users would be interested in going to. Okay. The last service that I want to discuss is actually Washington Post. So in Washington Post, if you see again above the fold, right, they're presenting you information which is necessary for you to look at before scrolling, which is the topics, the important, interesting, or the most useful news that they think that you would be reading, and that's also connected to recommendation. And they also have the sign on. They don't have a cart because they're not selling anything. And recommendations to some extent is actually shown here, which is the topics that one may be interested in from going from this page, right? Most read. So that's probably keeping in the number of people who are reading the article, they're presenting it to you. Right, so that helps you to get a sense of how service like Washington Post is actually deploying the design pattern. Given that we focused only on the e-commerce website kind of design patterns, Washington Post does not have many of them applied. We saw how these services have implemented the design pattern, and I hope that gave you an idea for what the design patterns are and how you can implement it. Now let's look at some of the videos that I asked you to look at, and we'll discuss about what did you get out of the video. So I'm hoping that you've already seen the video, because if you've not seen the video, then there is no point in actually going beyond this section in the lecture. And the reason why I can't play the video as part of the lecture itself, it's because of copyright issues. So I'm expecting that you would have gone and seen the IDEO video, and therefore and then actually listen to this particular slides. So I'm sure you got something out of viewing the video. Here are some things that I think is critical that you want to take away from the video that you saw. So first one is empathy, right? They clearly say that talking to the users is critical. Talking to the real experts is actually the person who's buying things in the shopping mall, buying things in the grocery stores with the cart with him or her, and having a kid in one hand. How are they trying to buy? All of that you have to understand. That's when you'll make a better design. Fail fast. Fail fast is something that we've discussed before in the class too. The video emphasizes on making some design and using that design, coming up with prototypes, coming up with ideas, how to use what you observed in real users and adapting it to your design. So when you do this fail fast, when you have multiple designs for a particular solution, do the design, make a prototype, get feedback, come back and design. You're failing fast because if there is any errors in your design, it will be easier and it will be good to actually get it fixed quickly. Process is the key. I think the head of the group, when he speaks, he says that they are not subject matter experts of any particular topic. What they are good at is only the process in which they find the solution. I think that's super critical for this class. I think this class or this topic helps you to figure out a process in which you can make good designs, process in which you can develop solutions which people would use, not make you an expert in a particular domain. Nobody is a subject matter expert. Learn it from the real users. And another critical thing from the video is that if you have carefully watched it, the members of the group are actually so diverse, right? There is a manager, there is a PhD, there is a biomedical person, there's a chemical person, and there's a person who did only or had admissions in medicine but did not take it, right? So these kind of diverse people actually helps you to solve the problem better. And one thing we don't do well in at least the Indian ecosystem is that when you do projects, when you do programs, you end up actually having people who are similar to you, and therefore the creativity of having diverse inputs is missing. So if you think that you took away anything more than what I have listed here, I would like to know. Please email it in the mailing list, and I would be actually keen to see what you took away from the video more than what is in this slide. Now let's look at the video of sketching and prototyping. This is a 3-part video that I actually shared in the slides for week 5. One is on sketching and prototyping, another one is on digital prototyping, and the third one is on native prototyping. So if you look at these 3 videos, you will get a sense of how Google is actually trying to do some of these prototyping. But I think my emphasis for watching the video is not particularly because what Google is doing, but it particularly to let you know how these things are done. And of course, given that Google is doing this must be one of the prominent ways by which other companies are also doing the attacking the problem of building prototype. So again, I'm hoping that you've seen the video. So now let's go look at what are the key components of this first video I posted. Empathy, right? Empathy comes back again and again. Even Google starts the first video actually emphasizes that even though it is Google, which is a large company, they also start with paper prototypes. Even though Google is such a large company, they also start in paper prototype. A simple drawing on a paper or post-it, right? So the key component is that for the prototyping, for the sketching specifically, I think even if you do it on a simple paper or a post-it, that's good enough for users to give you feedback. Sketching can be used at any point in your design process. The entire life cycle of design, you could actually use sketching to get some inputs from the users. And of course, the end product of sketching is wireframes, where you develop how the interface is going to look like. So the big reason why you want to actually do sketching and prototyping is that the more you get clarity on actually having what to build, it will help you to have shorter time in terms of building it itself. Prototyping allows you to even view the elevation when you're actually building the prototype. This I think we saw in the lecture that I discussed about prototyping. So the point here is to emphasize that Google also does something, and Google also promotes such methodologies. Simulate interactions. Of course, the goal of prototyping is to simulate interactions. Record the interactions and share the ideas. At the end of the video, they actually say that develop a small GIF or a video, how the interactions are done, and then you could actually show it to users to get some feedback. The next video that I posted is on digital prototyping, right? So the digital prototyping, the goal here is to actually get the paper prototypes that you have built into some digital form. Here are the points that I took away from the video, and I'm assuming that by now you would have watched the video before seeing this part of the lecture. No coding is necessary, right? You're only building digital prototypes where you're not really writing the code. Building models like architects create, right? Architects are, so the outcomes of the digital prototype is that it will look like the model that the architects would build before actually getting onto starting the construction itself. Users get the feel of the final product. When you have the digital prototyping done, the users get, in the video you would have seen how they are showing you how the interface will look like, where the image, meaning moving the video, moving the product on the left, moving the product on the right, where the information cataloging, where the information about the products are presented. And in the video, he specifically talks about principle and sketch, which is moving from content from principle to sketch and back and forth. Also allows you to do better design, which is that you create the basic things in principle and then port it to sketch, or port it to design the basic thing in sketch and port it to principle, so you can actually develop the interactions between the interfaces. The video generally goes through a lot of details about features in principle, and one of the main things that the video talks about is transitions are made easy, meaning just few clicks. You want to start from the transition A to the transition B, how you want to go. You just have to drag and drop a line saying, when I'm on this interface, when I do this, the transition should go to this particular interface. If that is done, it's actually easy for the end users to move between the interfaces. And imagine, I think these tools that have come up with in the last 5 or 10 years has made all these development of interactions pretty easy and simple. And he also talks about a tool form which allows you to make the interactions slightly more better, and it also captures how the interactions when the end users are doing. This can actually help you make a better decision on what the interactions for the users when they interacted with the system. So the last one is about native prototyping. Native prototyping is mostly looking at the video, looking at the final code writing for the system that you want to build. And I will post this link in the class and add it to the video notes. So because this is not the one that I sent in the email, this is the fourth link that I'm asking you to see before we talk about it in the lecture. So just to avoid some confusion, I will let you to actually look at this video in lecture 6 and then week 6, and then we could actually look at the outcomes of the video in the lecture now. So what is this native prototyping is all about? It's about writing code, explore with the technology, because I think the phone that you have today actually allows you to get a lot of information from the phone itself. So you don't have to do external tools to find out information like what is the height in which I'm standing, vibration, right? All of this is actually getting captured in the phone, which if you have access to the phone device, then you should be able to get these details and use it while making the decision. Like for example, I think there are features in iPhone where when it is falling down at a particular height, the speed in which it is actually falling down can be used to say the phone to shut off. Extension of design or code is the new playground, right? So you want to make sure that you get the design that you've been doing in the paper prototyping, sketching, and digital prototyping to the code, so you can actually do things with the code. The problem with writing the code is that you may not, that this is one of the big reasons why the designers have to also interact with the developers, and this is also an important reason why developers have started becoming more designers and designers have started becoming more developers, because it allows the designer and the developer to talk, because not always everything that you come up with the design can be achieved through a line of code. So that's something you want to keep in mind while you're developing. Another critical thing that the video talked about is actually designing a product for usage in different devices, right? Laptop, iPad, phone, watch, and VR. So if it's the same YouTube app that I have to use, I may be using it in all of these platforms. So how will your design change? How will the design, what are the design patterns that you'll use? How will you actually enable all the features that are available in YouTube on the desktop, or most of the features, or which features should be made available? So those are the critical questions that you want to ask while designing. And that actually comes out when you're doing this native prototyping. And you want to make sure that you use this final native prototyping to tell the story that you want when you're talking to the users, because this is the most richest form of interactions that you're going to provide to the user. And develop a story. So whenever you're trying to interact with the users, I think it's best to find a good, compelling story when interacting with the users. If you remember, this is connecting to the topic that we saw earlier called task analysis. If you have a good, compelling story, good, compelling reason why users have to interact with the application that you build, users will generally interact more, and they will also provide you more feedback. So with that, I'll stop with the week 6 lectures. We'll also add some lab sessions for week 6. So that will help you to get some hands-on of some topics also.